the wholeness is found. And so we see that in the same thing with the Navajo ceremonials, like I mentioned earlier, the one that Father Hale mentioned. The tree, as the plant grows, it grows roots down, it grows roots upward. All the things that are there come around. The person who's the patient, in this case, which is a healing ceremony, stands in relation to their place in the cosmos. The whole world is brought into it and spoken into existence, or sung into existence, or prayed into existence. So the origins of this enchanted world began long ago, and here's just the end line from one of the songs that I really love. You, dear, are an enchanted wilderness world, beautiful with the dawn wind. Okay, thank you. I'd like to read more, but I want to save some voice for answers, so ask me questions if you want to. One thing, I've been very fortunate. About 12 years ago, I was asked, for some reason, I don't know, to be part of a group called the Native Science Dialogues. And one of the things that we do that's different than what ACs or some of the other Native science groups do is they take Western science and bring it to Native people, and then try to get the Indian students to use the Western science to go into the world. And the thing that we are doing is taking Native science and trying to take the science that is known by Native people into the larger world. And so non-Indian scientists are always at the dialogues, and they're there to learn from what the Native people have to say, which is really a lot. The dialogues keep going on and on until we finally started our own school called the Native American Academy, and we're just getting underway. And last year we had funding from the National Science Foundation to start doing preliminary work on this. But there's a great deal that's known about mineral medicines and quantum theory and all kinds of things that there's an assumption that we Native people don't know anything about science, and it's not true. In fact, we were talking about agriculture earlier, and I was thinking about, I just read an article in something on the airplane here today, and they were saying that hunter-gatherer cultures lasted longer than agricultural cultures because they never wore out any land, and they never really cut down a lot of trees or anything. I know it was about Chaco Canyon. They were talking about what happened at Chaco Canyon and all the area around there, and how arid it became and how many trees were cut in order to put together, all the buildings and all the structures. And yet what an amazing thing it was, because they had no way of measuring astronomy, and yet the North Road is perfectly north. All the roads go straight. They cut straight through. They don't curve around or anything. It's practical. They just go straight north.
You used the term, we need to revivify the world. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
How about reanimate? Well, it seems like, from my experience with human beings, is that human beings, we think that we're more alive than the rest of the world. And we don't think that the tree is as alive as we are, or the ants are as alive as we are, or the wasps, or whatever. I happen to be into insects right now, so so I'll be talking about those. But the thing is, the rest of the world is equally alive and equally important as we are. And in the native view, especially in the native view, that world is to be treated with the same respect you would treat another human being. Depending on how you treat other human beings, maybe more. Maybe treat it with more respect.
Have you studied much about fire, or Native people's stories and traditions about fire, use of fire around the world at all?
No, I haven't. All I know is the one about the ants. Because I thought, wow, that's really brilliant to go out and put something, quartz out there to reflect the heat. But no, I'm sure that, the fire was used and people had a great knowledge of fire and how to control it. Unlike the Forest Service, that where I live, they're always setting off controlled burns, but they're never really controlled. They always go out of control. So we have, every time there's a controlled burn, there's a forest fire. In fact, I'm not sure, but I think the Hayman fire was a controlled burn. And I live not too far from there, and I looked around my house, and everything that was in my house that was white was red, and it was early in the morning, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I looked out and I thought we were being bombed because the trees were crowning and they were looking like bombs exploding. They were even mushroom clouds. And so I turned on the news and saw that it was a fire and we weren't being bombed. But then I had to try to figure out how to get my horses out and, what things were important that I wanted to get out of the house. And then the wind changed direction. It went another way. But
In Omaha legends, certain legends, the words go, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became all things. It's almost echoes the Gospel of John. What is, and then adds, be humble before the Word, repeats that again. Do you think the word is causative? What's your perception of the word in this tradition, oral tradition? Is there one?
well, if you look at all the creation stories, they're very similar. I mean, the Marshall Islands were hummed into existence. I like that one. But most things were spoken into existence or dreamed or prayed, saying, that they had to do with the word of creation.
Do you believe dreams are causative? Any of the traditions you know? The dream is prognostic, causative. I've seen some of that in the Lakota legend.
No, I'm not sure. Do I believe that, like, if I had a dream, it would create the world, a new world?
Might.
Wouldn't that be great? Well, there is a nursery of baby stars out there. I saw a picture of it. So maybe so. Yeah, it's an amazing universe. I mean, who knows? And I certainly think people's dreams are important. You know, I don't know if they're important just to those people, but I do know that, like when Lawrence van der Post had that dream about his son, I mean, when his son had the dream, he was a man of great knowledge, and he understood what that dream meant, that it meant that there was something wrong with his son's health. But, you know, not everybody is intelligent enough and insightful enough to know what those dreams would mean. You know, I mean, we're not dream interpreters anymore, for the most part. Except for Jungian analysts or somebody like that, probably. I do know that the knowledge out there and in wilderness, but not only wilderness, the knowledge that's out there, period, is tremendous. And it would be really foolish to think that we could ever come close to understanding it. I mean, there are just some things that we'll never understand. And we can think about it as much as we want. We're just not capable of that large conception or perception.
When you write about wilderness with these powerful and vivid descriptions and things like that, do you feel that you are a medium and that these words and descriptions are speaking to you, or is it more about this quiet retrospect where you think about things more and take them to you eventually?
Well, I don't like to think very much. And I find like when I'm writing, if I think that the writing goes away, that in my opinion, the mind is the worst enemy of the writer. And so I try not to do that. And if things aren't coming to me in any way that, you know, like you said, they just come, then I do writing exercises to throw myself off so that I'll write something that I'm not thinking of. And then I usually come up with at least one good line. And it's very different depending on what you're writing. Like if you're writing fiction or if you're writing poetry, you know, I mean, you do different things with, you know, like if I'm doing fiction, I need to stay within the story. But with poetry, you know, it's like good to be able to make an imaginative leap to another place. And now that you have the mic, nobody has one.
What kind of exercises, for example?
Oh, I just make them up as I go. It depends. Sometimes I'll just take random words and start writing with them. Or sometimes I'll look at a picture and write the things it looks like. Or I'll grab a I have like a collection of old postcards that all look really weird that I've bought at bookstores over the years, and I'll pull one out and use it. And, you know, write. One of the things that I always do is like when I'm ready to stop, that's when I write more, because I know that my mind will stop right at the logical part. But that if I go beyond that, that's when I get to the creative part because I get out of the logical part. So it's like a matter of pushing yourself in new ways. It's good brain exercise too.
Testing 1, 2. Hello, my name is Devery Fairbanks. I was a student at the University of Minnesota when you taught there in the American Indian Studies department. And my mentor was Roger Buffalo Head, who you probably know.
I wasn't.
Maybe that was so long ago you don't remember,
I don't think he was there when I was there.
but you know him. Okay, he's
No.
from Oklahoma, anyway. Well, I have a Native American book club, and we use solar storms, and now we're using Women Who Watches Over the World. And you're a good writer.
Oh, thank you. Well, tell him thanks for supporting me. I sold 49 books last year, and now I know where they went. Woman Who Watches Over the World was a really challenging book to write because I not only wanted to put in personal history, but to bring in like all mythology and also to bring in indigenous knowledge systems. So to try to get that all into one book was a real challenge. And it took a lot longer than I thought it would, but I think, like I really wanted to be able to remark on some of the things. For instance, the George Wilson, the man that lived up north, wrote the letters home to his father about the minerals in the north. And those were the only documents that existed about this mountain, Mineral Mountain, that he wrote about. And so, it was really interesting to be able to say, okay, let's go from the stone at Chimayo, New Mexico, to, the Mineral Mountain in the north, to these letters that are being sent to Europe. But it was a lot. It was hard work. It was a lot of work.
I think we're going to stop now to give you a chance to sign books.
All right.
So everybody come by, look, and thank